What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about 5 rules to follow as a quarterback to make you a better overall player. Now, rule number 1, fellas, is going to be being on the outside arch of your foot versus the inside arch of your foot in your quarterback throwing base. So why do you want to do that? So a lot of times when quarterbacks get to the top of their drop or they're in their throwing stance, their weight is distributed on this like big toe arch. See where this Adidas logo is on the inside of my foot? That's like where their weight is distributed. So the reason why that's a problem is when you start to bend your knees to get into your base, it causes like a natural knee, like inward cave with your knee. Now the reason why that inward cave of your knee is bad is that when you take a stride to the target, stride to the receiver, that knee cave puts that foot outside of your shoulder frame. And when that foot's outside of your shoulder frame and you go to rotate through, your back knee, your back foot, everything gets left behind you as a QB. And what's the most important thing as a quarterback when it comes to taking pressure off your arm and getting velocity? That's having clean hip rotation. So if you guys can focus on being on the outside arch of your foot, so that's like the pinky toe arch where this other Adidas logo is. I'm not asking for your foot to be like curved up like this, but just shift the weight. What that does is presses your knee out, keeps your shins straight, and automatically puts that foot underneath you. So when you go to take a stride, if you could keep your weight there, guess what? That foot's under your armpit, and now when you try to rotate through, you get a much cleaner rotation from your hips. So anytime that you guys are playing catch, I want you guys on that outside arch. Anytime that you guys drop back on a throw, 1, 2, 3, let's focus on landing on that outside arch so my foot can be under me naturally so I get more out of my hips when I rotate through. Now fellas, before we get into the rest of these rules that quarterbacks need to follow, if you're a QB and you would like a 2-month-long daily workout schedule in the gym and on the field that you can do, go to that very first link in the description below for our elite quarterback training package. What you'll get access to, guys, is like daily workouts. So it's Monday, you're doing this in the gym, doing this on the field. Tuesday, doing this in the gym, this on the field, all the way till Sunday for 2 full months. We obviously include rest days, and we give you the exact sets and reps to follow for each specific gym exercise and field drill, and we give you a video example of each gym exercise and each drill. So guys, you want some more information, go to that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you on that. We also throw in a free 40-minute long video on how you can read defenses as a quarterback, because that is super important and not enough people talk about the mental aspect of the position. So again, guys, very first link in that description below. Let's get back to this video. Now, rule number 2 as a quarterback is that when you take the football back, you need to get to an opposite L angle rather than a vertical L angle, and we're going to discuss why. So does it need to be a perfect 90-degree L when you go back with the ball? No. Plenty of quarterbacks don't get to that perfect L, and they have very, very efficient throwing mechanics. Some guys are maybe a little bit higher, some guys are maybe a little bit lower, some guys are at that L, but it just really depends. You just can't lift the ball directly to 90 degrees when your front foot gets down in your throwing motion, because here's the reason why. If you want to have more velocity on your throws, more spin on the ball, so like the spin rate is actually higher. You guys all know what I'm talking about. You could throw a spiral, but it's a weak spin. And then you throw a spiral and it's got a lot of spins on it. That's because your arm is whipping through and you get to a position called extension faster when you're at an opposite L. So for accuracy, for spin rate, for just general velocity on the ball, something that's really important is called extension. So as a quarterback, everybody's heard the phrase flick their wrist, right? But you don't want to flick your wrist with like your elbow bent. You don't want to flick your wrist coming across. What you want to do is you want to flick your wrist, but your wrist, elbow, and shoulder need to be extended towards the target. Now, here's the issue. When you go straight up to 90, your throwing motion, your rotator cuff, which is in your shoulder, works in 2 parts. It's like you're either going to go from 1 to 2, or you're going to go from 1 to 2, right? When your hips decide to rotate through, that's what brings the second rotation of the ball, if you will. So if you lift the ball up to 90, front foot's down, right? That's what a lot of people teach. A lot of people teach this. Step and lift up to 90. When your hips decide to rotate through, the ball can go behind your head, and it's hard for me to get to extension. It's a longer process. Yes, I might have a higher release, but it actually slows down the motion. Now, if I go here, foot's down, opposite L, when my hips rotate through, the ball stays away from my head a little bit more. It's not way over here, it's here. And when you're away from your body, you can get to extension faster. That's why you see a lot of quarterback coaches teaching that like sidearm throw. I'm not going to teach you that. I just don't want the ball directly over your head. So the rule that you have to follow as a QB, get to some type of backstroke. It could be a little bit lower, a little bit higher than the L, whatever, but I need that. I need this rather than here to here, so we can have a higher spin rate on the ball, more velocity, and more accuracy. Now, rule number 3 that all quarterbacks need to follow is that when you're throwing a touch pass or a deep ball, you need to make sure that you are tilting your front shoulder at a 45-degree angle. A lot of times, I see this all the time. High school coaches, other quarterback coaches teach their quarterbacks on deeper throws to keep your shoulders level, but just snap the release at a higher spot. But the issue with that, guys, is you're almost like shot putting the ball. You need to rotate. You got to think about, like, as a quarterback, what are we trying to do with my hips and my core? We're trying to rotate, right? So if I'm throwing like a quick slant, what I want to do is I want to rotate on a slant, like plane, if you will, or level, I should say. So like if I'm here and I'm throwing a slant, I want to go back with the ball, remember that opposite L, and I want to be right there. If I'm trying to drop the ball in the bucket, I can't, like, how do I do that? I rotate and I just push it up. Like, what I want to do is I want to have a slight tilt of my shoulder, and all you're doing is changing the plane. So you're throwing a slant like this, you throw a corner or a fade route, the exact same way, you just change the plane. So now I'm here and I'm still rotating, I'm still using my hips properly, as now it's at a higher angle. For those of you that struggle with your deep throws, your touch passes turning over, that's something that's going to help you. So guys, make sure that when we're throwing with touch, we arch that shoulder so I can throw up on that higher plane to get that ball to drop in. Now, rule number 4, fellas, is when you throw on the run, you do not want to load up and scope with your front shoulder before you release the ball. And there's 2 reasons as to why. So number 1, it's going to make your release slower. This is a way, like the reason why I say this, you guys, is because as a quarterback, this is how I used to always train. My quarterback coach put me through all kind of footwork drills, escape drills, but he would always beg, hey, when you throw on the run, what you got to do is that when you see the receiver open, load your shoulder to him, and then you throw. Now, when I got into a real game, and this is my real experience with this, you guys, I felt like when it wasn't a designed rollout, where it's like sprint left, you get around, you can load up and throw, when it was like, oh crap, play's breaking down, I got to get out of the pocket, when that receiver's open, I wasn't comfortable just throwing it to him. I had to load up, and that would make me late, and I would be behind on my throws, so what I would do is I just pull the ball down and run. Would I go get a few yards? Yes, but I'd rather let the receivers go do the work, right? So you have to get comfortable being able to throw from a shoulder and hip square position when you're on the run. So if I'm rolling out towards the camera right here, and let's say let's say there's a person behind the camera and they clap their hands for the ball. So they clap their hands, I want to be able to throw all in one motion. I don't want to have to load up. Now, it's also bad mechanically because it can cause you to miss to the left or miss to the right because it can cause your arm to fly outside your frame, and I'll explain why. So let's talk about throwing from the pocket, right? So when I throw from the pocket, what do I want to do? When my front foot gets down in my throwing sequence, I want to rotate my shoulders back and take the football back. This concept is called dissociation. Think of it like a baseball swing, because baseball hitters and quarterbacks generate power the same way, right? So if I'm here and I rotate my shoulders back, now I got that separation and my hips can fire my shoulders through. Think about this. If I'm throwing from the pocket and I'm like this, loaded up with my shoulder before my front foot gets down, when I step, I can't dissociate. So the only option I have is to open up. And when my shoulders and hips open up at the same time, I over-rotate. My shoulder and my hip are going this way, so that makes my arm fly outside my frame and the ball can take off. Or worse yet, I just open up and I lose power. Same thing on the run. The only thing that changes on the run is the step that you take. When you're on the run, you step with your opposite foot, so your throwing side foot. So if I'm rolling out to the camera here, I step. I want my shoulders to rotate back, because now guess what? And if you try this, you're going to feel a stretch right here. That's where the torque comes from. Shoulders are back as you step with your right foot. Now guess what? I shoot through. But if I'm rolling out like this with my shoulder on the target and I step, I can't rotate anymore back that way. So when my foot gets down, I'm opening up and I push the ball. So guys, on the run, you have to practice staying open. Run at the target, but rotate as you step, not before you step with your throwing side foot. Now, rule number 5 that you need to follow as a quarterback if you want to be successful has to do with the mind. And what that is having a pre-snap process. A lot of times what quarterbacks will do, get the play from the sideline or they're in the huddle, they'll call the play, they line up, all their folks on set go, and then they look at a receiver and then they throw and maybe they complete the ball, but sometimes, most often than not, they have no clue what the defense is doing and they have no idea where to actually go with the ball. They're not learning how to read a defense. They're not learning how to go through progressions, right? So what you need to understand as a quarterback is that I need a pre-snap process before I snap the ball. Process has to be quick, but you develop this in practice. So your pre-snap process, the one that I like, is looking at the safeties, corners, box. So I look at the safeties. How many are there? Are there 2? Is there 1? How are they playing? Are they close? Are they far back? Are they wide? Are they tight? Look at the corners. Are they pressed up? Are they inside shade, outside shade? Are they 7 to 8 yards off? Then I look at the box. Is it a 4-3, a 4-4? Does it look like they're bringing pressure? What's going on? And All of that information is a process of elimination to tell me what the coverage is. So let's say, for example, on the left side of the field, I have a smash concept. Let's say I have a hitch from the corner, or a hitch from the outside, and then a corner from the slot. Right side, I have a dig from my outside receiver, and then a whip route from my slot. So here's the thing. If it's cover two deep safeties take the deep halves, corners sit in the flats. I like the smash better than I like the whip dig. So if I have the option to choose which side as a quarterback, I look at the coverage. Okay, I know the whip's going to run right into the corner. I know that dig will be taken away by safeties and linebackers, so I'm working this side. Corner stays on the hitch. I throw the corner route on a line. Bam, I can snap the ball. So that's the type of pre-snap process you need to have as a quarterback. And if you could work that process in practice, you'll be more successful in a game and you will know where to go with the ball.